Zeb, back again with Records with Zeb and Red, my Boston Terrier here. Last week I went back to Phoenix and went back to the In Groove, the Half Price Books there, as well as the Record Room and Desert Grooves Records. I haven't gotten my package yet that I sent myself with the rest of the records. So today we will be talking about my pickups from the In Groove, and then as soon as I get the other ones in the mail, I'll do a couple videos with those. Vacation kind of sucked because I was sick the whole time. Not that anybody really cares, but I got sick a couple days before I left and was pretty much sick the whole time, so that was fucking awesome. And haven't really been making any videos. I've been pretty depressed lately, which is pretty typical. I have autism and bipolar disorder, and so comes and goes, especially this time of year, but I'm hanging in there. See, the first record we're going to start with is a soundtrack. It is the soundtrack to the movie Wisdom, and the soundtrack was composed by Danny Elfman, which is entirely the reason I bought it. It is pretty good. It was $25. It's minty. Next, we have the Speaker's Corner reissue of Lou Reed's Transformer on RCA. This sounds quite good. I do not have an original to compare it to. I think I have a compilation that has many of the tracks on it, and this sounds quite good. The bass is very prevalent. It's clear. It's just well mixed, well recorded, well pressed, and it's great music. It's quite good. This is going to be Gong, Magic Brother on BYG Actuel. This is a reissue by Charlie Records, who I know very little about with certainty. Just hearsay. They're the ones that release the or have released in the past 13th Floor Elevators, maybe some Funkadelic albums, I'm not sure, but I've heard or read that they have some less than desirable business practices as far as them acquiring the licensing rights to press that, but at the same time, as unfortunate as those situations are where quote unquote the artist isn't getting the money or what have you, from my experience of absorbing information about such topics, is a lot of times, unfortunately, it is simply the artist's fault. Like, I understand that artists aren't lawyers, they're not accountants, but you can hire those kinds of people when you're put in a position to sign a contract before you do so. To some degree, I don't really have a lot of empathy in that situation. You made a decision. Now someone comes to your issuing your music fraudulently. That's a whole different subject. But I digress. This is Arlo Guthrie, Alice's Restaurant. I've been looking for a copy of this for a while. It's not uncommon. It's not expensive, but this was a really clean copy. It's $14. And it does sound good. However, because this record is so common, I probably could have held out. Has the Warner Brothers logo with the rim text that goes quite a ways around. I think it's from like the late 70s or maybe even the 80s. It still comes in a proper cardboard jacket, but just in principle, I feel like I probably should have held out for an earlier pressing, even though it probably doesn't sound much different. This is a reissue of Funkadelic's Maggot Brain. This is the, I don't know if it just came out, but the In-Groove just got it. It has a bonus disc with it doesn't actually list anywhere on the jacket what's on the bonus disc, and I haven't listened to the bonus disc like most of the time. I didn't buy it because it had the bonus disc. I bought it because I have the 4 douchebags with beards shit pressing of this, and like many albums, I have listened to this in a vacuum, and that's the 4 Men with Beards is the only one I've ever listened to. But it is those are pretty lauded as being not good sounding, and this definitely is superior sounding. It's the kind of thing where not only does it just sound better when it's something you've listened to intimately in other pressing, it also you simply just hear things that you didn't hear before on the other pressing, and it would be great to get an original of that. But an original of that in the kind of shape that I would want it in would be several $100s. This is Margie Joseph, Phase 2 on Volt Records. This thing is a minty for this kind of record, soul record, what have you. Not easy to acquire in good condition. This thing is nice. It's got this yellow label. It's still an original pressing. From what I looked up, it's they had various labels, and it didn't seem like you can correct me if I'm wrong, but based on my Discogs research, it didn't really seem like a different label meant it was a repress. It's just that they use several different labels. They have the darker label with the orange lightning bolt. They have a white label, a blue label with similar font and logos to that. And that was $20. This is Johnny Ray, self-titled on Liberty. I don't have any records by Johnny. However, this was not the record itself, but the artist was in the No Direction Home Bob Dylan documentary that Martin Scorsese did, and along with a couple other artists, including Odetta, who I do have many records of, and that's what led me to pick this up. And this is in really nice shape. It is $10, and actually a good deal. I'm sure I have to assume it's not a very desirable record. However, in that condition, that's a pretty good deal. It could easily have been $15 or $20. And that's the thing I kind of noticed my first few times at the In-Groove is that I wouldn't compare it to like my local record store of High Voltage, where High Voltage is trying to get the most money for every record, period. Like I've gotten maybe one record there that was, and it probably was because whoever priced it didn't look it up or thought it was a different pressing than it actually is. The Captain Beyond, their first record with the lenticular cover, I believe it's their first record. And I got that for like $20, and it's minty. And my research shows that that's easily a $50 to $75 record. But for the most part, that record there would have been priced at $50 to $75. And at the In-Groove, they don't. The pricing is it's fair across the board, but there are certain things that I've have been kind of surprised where it's like, oh wow, yeah, this is has sold for more in this condition, but it may just, I assume a lot of that is just they're less desirable titles. And I may have mentioned in my previous video about the In-Groove, but one thing that's really nice about there is that there's not going to be anything in the bins that isn't in playable condition. I feel like the condition, if it's a very old record, like I picked up a couple of last time. If you watched a couple of older jazz records that were maybe VG plus, definitively VG plus, and not a lower grade, but also undoubtedly no one would grade it higher that knew what they were doing. And they're harder to find records, and they're older records, and they probably weren't very pristine when they came out of the package, just because of when they were made and where they were pressed. But for the most part, you know, everything else is going to be like it may not be near mint, quote unquote, but it's all going to be VG plus plus for the most part, from what I found. I mean, it got to the point where if it was a used record, I didn't even, and this sounds silly, I'm sure, to a lot of people, but like every time I checked the condition of a record, I didn't need to check the condition, it was good. And that's nice, just knowing, going into a place, knowing when you pull something out and you get excited about it, you don't have to go and have that, you know, moment of pulling it to check the condition and then being disappointed because it's a Frisbee. That's not going to happen there. Maybe the stuff in the lower bins that's cheap, but that's, you know, very inexpensive, and I didn't even go through any of that. But again, I digress. Keep it moving here. This is a Flying Dutchman. This is Three Shades of Blue, Johnny Hodges. It has Leon Thomas and Oliver Nelson. It is a repress, so it does not have the like the blue tinted label. It's the more white label. It's from a couple years after the original pressing. I listened to this. It's fantastic. It was inexpensive. It was $14. And Flying Dutchman is just one of those labels where if I find it and it's in good condition, I generally buy it, because I don't think I've ever bought a Flying Dutchman that I didn't like. It's kind of the same thing with Impulse. I pretty much like all the Impulse records, the CTI records. You know, it's for me, it's kind of a no-brainer. You know, I'm not just gonna buy every one when they're because some of them can be expensive. Obviously, Flying Dutchman, but you know, that's a killer deal. This is one that I've been waiting to pick up for a while. It's on his list, I think, of top analog records. I could be wrong. This is Duke Ellington, Masterpieces by. This is the Analog Productions reissue. It's a 33 RPM. It just, you know, just comes in and out of stock, and like the this is one of the last few that I hadn't acquired that I was certain that I would. I think the last one that I need is the Helen Merrill on Emerson that I don't have. I can't recall if this is the album before Ellington Uptown, or after Ellington Uptown, but that is my favorite record, and this is highly lauded, both the music and the sonic quality, so I'm very excited to listen to that. I haven't listened to that yet. Listen to the rest of the ones that I've showed. This is a record that I have an original of, but it is not, it's probably VG plus, but it's probably been played a billion times, so it doesn't sound great. And this is more of the Monkees. This is the Run Out Groove reissue. So it comes in a tip-on jacket, has a second disc, bonus crap on it that I'll probably never listen to. This is the stereo mix. And I highly recommend any of these Run Out Groove reissues, because they're usually quite fairly priced. $35 for a double disc. It should be $35 for a single disc with the quality of the jacket and everything, and you get the extra disc. I also have the not the Shuggie Otis, but it's not Shuggie Otis. It's I can't recall. big dude, afro, I think guitar player. And then I also have the Superfly soundtrack and the Curtis Mayfield, other Curtis Mayfield record that they did. And they're all great. They sound good. They're well mastered. This is a record that I have on CD. And it's one of the actual CDs that I actually ever listened to, even though I don't really listen to any CDs anymore. This is Live, the band Live, obviously. Throwing Copper, yeah, Throwing Copper is the name of the album. Spread across 2 discs, as it should be. And I haven't listened to this one yet. So it's $33. It is the 25th anniversary edition. One of the few more modern bands that I enjoy. This was marked as used, but I think it's just because it has this crease here. This is the Posies Deer 23. I didn't actually read the hype sticker when I bought it, but when I got my shipment in, it's cut at 45 RPM, and it's remastered by Kevin Gray. This is an Omnivore recording, and it's put out by UME. It was originally on Geffen Records as the label. This is technically, it says their first major label debut. Their first record I have, and that's on Pop Llama, so that's obviously considered an independent label or just a smaller label, which it is. I've never listened to that record, but their first record is killer. It's probably one of my most spun records in 2023. This is Volume 2, The Soft Machine. This is a German reissue. It's from I believe, I asked Mike if he was familiar with the pressing. He wasn't. He said it was from the Canadian collection he bought. It was $25, so I mean, an original US of that in comparable condition is probably going to be, I would assume, $50 or $75. Paid $75 for the uncensored cover of their first record at High Voltage in VG Plus condition. And this is T-Rex Electric Warrior. This is the reissue that I believe is cut by Kevin Gray. It's pressed in the US, so I imagine it's pressed at RTI. I haven't opened it yet. Comes in a tip-on jacket. Great album. I don't have another version of that album. That's the one that I think MoFi did. I think MoFi did that record in the last 3 years. And it just kind of went in and out of stock, and I just never picked it up. And that was $25, which is just insane in this day and age. First, I mean, pretty much everything's that expensive, but that's it could be a $40 record. It just could. That's gonna be all of this stuff that I got at the In Groove. I'm just waiting for one more box. I got a really sweet Bob Dylan title. One of the other record stores I went to. I'll make a video about that when they arrive. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Wyoming Dave, if you're here, thank you for watching. Hello, as well as Lee Newman. I appreciate you guys watching. I think you're the only two that actually watch all of them, which I didn't really expect anybody to watch these. That wasn't the point. Just do it for my own enjoyment and hopefully be able to gain some interaction with the vinyl community. But yeah, I'm excited for that show you guys the rest of the stuff. I'll probably do 1 or 2 videos because it's another box in a box of records, plus some records I brought home in my luggage because I didn't buy enough mailers. So I got a box in a box coming of most of the stuff from the Record Room and Desert Grooves Records. So we'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.